Hi, y'all. We're tuning in for another episode of Make That Radio Show. This is Music and Business Talk. Now, I have a special guest for y'all today. I have an industry veteran for all y'all out there, especially all my independent artists that want to accomplish these goals. Oh, let me get some more natural lighting here. All right, there we go. Ooh, it's a little bright.
Yeah, I had to open up my blind too. So
There we go. All right, so for everybody out there, we have Terry Moore. Okay, I was making sure I pronounced your last name correctly. Who
uh,
is a industry professional? Not only he has been in the industry working with a lot of celebrities, what was it, like Queen Latifah, Will Smith, people like that, but also has helped, I want to say, independent artists as well. Not only doing the music, started in I guess based off what I saw, the interview was radio promotions, but quickly went to PR, which I think that is going to be a fantastic story in itself. But also partner with LegalShield, which a lot of y'all are going to get familiar with LegalShield, and Terry will explain to y'all. So without further ado, we have the industry veteran, Terry. Terry, thank you for coming onto the platform.
Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for having me on and love being invited on. Anytime you're asked to be somewhere and it's a good thing when it's a platform that you can share your information. So I'm glad to be here, sir.
Yeah, so you have a wealth of information that knowledge I want to get into. One, I was watching, so we have something in common, and I would say it's Prince. Prince is one of my favorite artists. Um, like, first of all, just the Purple Rain soundtrack alone has so many great songs on it, and like I think When Doves Cry is my favorite one. Um, my mom, she was a huge Prince fan, and that's where I got that from. When I was watching one of your interviews, I saw where that was like inspiration for you to be able to do that when he performed. Which want to say, which award show was that you saw where it
Amer-
inspired you to?
American Music Awards when I first got my Prince inspiration to do music.
Oh my goodness, how old were you at the time?
Oh man, I was 1984, so I had to be. Oh man, I graduated in 82, so I had from high school, so I had to
Mhm.
be probably about 2021 when I saw that.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is something else. It's something else for the impact that music in general has on us as individuals. So that inspired you. You got oh, and I'm sorry, you're originally from the New York area. So what is it? Brooklyn and Queens?
Yep, Far Rockaway, Queens and Crown Heights, Brooklyn.
Okay. So the mecca of hip hop, right? And
Yeah.
then you come to Atlanta, I believe you said in 1994, correct?
Yep, absolutely. Good research, my brother. Very cool.
I've been doing this a long time, so I like to like really go and dive deep into people's history. My first question when I heard that you was here when the Olympics came to Atlanta, and I think was that 96 the Olympics was here? How
Yeah.
did you, from your perspective, because you was already here a couple years, and I'm sure it took you a while to just adjust from a cultural standpoint, but when that happened and then Atlanta like blossomed, right? How was that in your perspective, your eyes? Was it like really good? Was it like, you know what I'm saying, a hard transition at first for the city growing like that? Or
I'll tell you this. It was definitely a culture shock for the first, maybe even first 5 to 10 years, because I never
Mhm.
thought growing up in New York that I would ever leave New York. I mean,
Okay.
I'm a diehard Yankees fan,
Hmm.
my father and my uncles and stuff were still living in New York. So
Hmm.
I never thought that I would leave New York. And gentleman by the name of Todd Monteiro, who was,
Okay.
if you ever see the movie The Super with Joe
Hmm.
Pesci, he's actually the gentleman on the movie poster holding Joe Pesci up on the movie poster. And shout out to Todd, he passed away several years ago. But I remember he called me one day and said, "Yo, you need to come to Atlanta."
Yeah.
And I had been to Atlanta before, but I really, more so on business trips with groups that I were marketing at the same time. But when he called me up, like, yeah, you really need to come to Atlanta. And he had been in
Hmm.
Atlanta for probably about a year or 2 years ago. So
Hmm.
it's funny, I tell this story all the time that when I first said, okay, let me take you up on, let me see what this is about. So
Yeah.
I actually had a business trip in Atlanta that particular year, let's say a couple months later. And he said, well, you could stay at my boy's house for the weekend.
Hmm.
And they picked me up from the airport. It had to be 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night when they picked me up from the airport.
Hmm.
And I remember when I got to his apartment, it was gated. And he
Hmm.
used his card to swipe in and the gate opened up. And I'm in the back seat like a little kid going to, Michael Jackson's Neverland. I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? Gates? And then
Uh-huh.
he goes to the gates, and then there was like swimming pools and tennis court. And I'm like, what is this? And I saw the apartment building. And what clinched it for me is when I got to his apartment and he was
Hmm.
showing me his apartment and he had a bathroom inside his master suite, his bedroom.
Okay.
In New York, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, you got a bathroom inside you're like, I'm thinking as a man, I don't
Hmm.
never have to leave my bedroom. I can go from
Yeah.
the bedroom to the bathroom, watch TV all day. I'm thinking in
Hmm.
that realm. How much you paying for this?
Hmm.
Maybe about $500 a month. I was like, that's it. I'm moving to Atlanta. And that's the reason I was like, I'm in. That's all I needed to know. So I called my
Yeah.
girl up at the time and said, hey, she wind up becoming my wife, then
Hmm.
ex-wife. We got a son together. But when I told her Georgia, she was like, Georgia? But
Hmm.
she came down with me later on that year, that
Hmm.
she really liked it. And that was 92 that
Hmm.
we started talking about it. 94, we made the move.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
then, when the Olympics came down here, how was it a lot of people after the Olympics? Did the city really blow up like, you know what I'm saying, they say, or research says it did?
Yeah, yeah. And I'll tell you this, and I actually had an opportunity to work the Olympics. I forgot what I did, but I did work downtown
Hmm.
at a couple of events. But this is what really happened with the Olympics in Atlanta.
Hmm.
Um, Atlanta was not ready for two major events.
Okay.
And one was the Olympics and the other was Freaknik.
Oh my goodness. I
Yeah,
heard
so that
stories
Atlanta
about
was ready
Freaknik.
for the
Yeah.
growth of both. So what happened was when the Olympics came to Atlanta, that
Hmm.
brought a lot of white communities down
Hmm.
that probably had not been to Georgia, that
Yeah.
probably started seeing Georgia in a different light and
Hmm.
saying, hey, this is not bad. And I believe that brought that influx of communities in. But
Hmm.
then Freaknik started happening, and
Hmm.
then that brought in the black community where they
Hmm.
started saying the same thing, like, hey, this ain't too bad. The weather's nice and the
Hmm.
houses are nice down here. So those two perfect storms, if you want to say,
Hmm.
between the Olympics and Freaknik brought
Hmm.
down those two different communities and Atlanta exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they wasn't ready for it.
Yeah. I'm not, you can tell
That's
because the
why.
infrastructure and all that, and then the traffic, and I'm like, it's just even horrible now. And I used to
Right.
work in Norfolk Southern back when I lived in Macon, and I used to drive
Hmm.
up for like 6.5 years when I worked, and get off of X 250 over there with the 14th Street and going to Midtown. I'm like, man, this stuff is, oh my goodness, traffic everywhere. Now that, you know what I'm saying, I'm in the Dallas area and I go between Dallas and Jonesboro and all between when I'm doing different stuff. I-20 is just, oh my goodness, 285, the trucks try to kill you. So I'm like, you got to really know when you're in Atlanta or Metro
Right.
Atlanta, the culture and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
so let's go back to the music part, right?
Okay.
When you first got into the music industry and when you saw Prince and that inspired you, when you worked with the label, was the label actually in New York or was that here in Atlanta area, or how did that go about? How did that start?
Yeah, well, actually, my first entry into the music industry was actually working at recording studios.
Okay, okay,
And
okay.
I was a kid that was thinking it would be cool to work at the recording studios, and I'm sitting behind the board,
Mm-hmm.
engineering the next major artist, and they're in
Mm-hmm.
the glass booth. And so I've started reaching out to a lot of recording studios in New York, in Manhattan,
Okay.
particularly in Brooklyn, and calling them up and asking if I could work for free. And I happen
Mm-hmm.
to, I always say everything is destined. Your path is written out.
Mm-hmm.
Because prior to that, I had a 9 to 5 job.
Mm-hmm.
I wind up getting fired from, and that happened that year that I saw Prince and decided to get into the music side. But
Mm-hmm.
there used to be a magazine that used to come out called Mix Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a magazine about recording studios around the country.
Okay.
So I used to buy that magazine every month and I would go flip through the
Mm-hmm.
pages and oh man, it's a beautiful studio there. So when I decided to get into the music industry, that was my first thought. I want to work at a recording studio. So
Mm-hmm.
I started calling recording studios all up and down New York, and 99% of them told me don't call them back. Especially if I'm trying to work for free. I was like, listen, I'll come and work for free.
Yeah.
Quite a few of them said, hey, well, we ain't got nothing in even now right now. Call us in 6 months. And
Mm-hmm.
I would write down on the calendar, okay, I'll call you back in 6 months and stuff, and got a name and stuff. But one particular guy, Raf,
Mm-hmm.
RAF, he was from Germany,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me to come down to the studio.
Mm-hmm.
On a Sunday, we did an interview. He said, you got the job. And I worked for free at this recording studio from 12 in the afternoon to 12 at night every Sunday for about a year. And my
Mm-hmm.
job basically was to open up the studio, be the gopher, clean the bathroom, go get food, answer the
Mm-hmm.
phone. But it was an opportunity for me to be in the studio with some amazing artists like Yoko Ono when she came and did a session.
Mm-hmm.
Roy Ayers came and did a session. Brenda K. Starr, who discovered Mariah Carey actually.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, David Belafonte, Harry
Mm-hmm.
Belafonte's son, and a host of other people. Fonda Ray, shout out to Fonda Ray. But it gave me an opportunity to sneak into the studios when I wasn't in the office and
Mm-hmm.
hang out and watch them do their sessions and talk to them. So it was a great experience. Then I went to Billboard magazine
Mm-hmm.
and worked for Billboard for about a year, and then I worked at the record label First Priority Music. Shout out to First Priority.
So are all these jobs still based in New York?
All of them was based in New York. With the yeah, Evergreen Recording Studio was in Manhattan. Billboard magazine was in Manhattan, right on Times Square, and
Mm-hmm.
First Priority Music was in Brooklyn.
What did you do at
And they were
Billboard,
distributed by Atlanta.
Billboard magazine?
I'm sorry, I said that again about Billboard.
What did you do? What was your role at Billboard?
Billboard, actually, my role was, a lot of people don't know this, but years ago, I'm talking about 60s, well, 70s to 80s, Billboard used to send out what we call like a cheat
Mm-hmm.
sheet. And every week the radio station and the record stores, and I'm going back because we're talking about record stores on every corner.
Mm-hmm.
They used to get a sheet in the mail, and it would be Michael Jackson 122, Brian McKnight 235, People Bryson, all these artists.
Hey y'all, it's your boy Andreas, Make That Radio Show podcast host and content creator. If you've been loving this interview and you would like to be interviewed on the platform, click on the link below, fill out the form, and I'll get in contact with you. If you are wanting to start a podcast or even learn how to monetize your podcast, which you can in a variety of ways, click on the link below. We'll set up a discovery call. I'll get in contact with you. And remember, happy podcasting.
And their numbers, random numbers, they were numbers that were assigned to them, and their single or
Mm-hmm.
their album.
Mm-hmm.
And I would call the radio station and the record stores and say, what are your top 20 on your playlist? What are your
Okay.
top record sales? And they couldn't tell me the name
Mm-hmm.
for, I guess, integrity reasons. They had to say 112-889-775. And as I'm keying them in, I did the black albums and the black single chart. And it's sort of like a
Mm-hmm.
voting. So as I'm keying in the numbers, the computer is sort of calculating, how
Mm-hmm.
many times 228, got recognized and how many times
Mm-hmm.
887. And that's how when you picked up Billboard next week, you got to one, two, three, and four,
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I remember one time I got real comfortable when when I called the radio station. And
Mm-hmm.
back in the days, which is so different now, is that in New York, the radio station wasn't playing what LA was playing.
Yeah. It was all
California, they
diversified.
were playing
Yeah.
something different than the South was playing. So if I'm
Hmm.
talking to a radio DJ and he's like, "Yeah, man, have you heard this new Babyface song?" And I'm like, "Nah, but what about this other joint by The Deal?" And I'm
Hmm.
talking music with them. And my supervisor came over to me and said, "Yo, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't talk music because it's like you're influencing."
Yeah.
Uh,
I was gonna say it's borderline payola almost. Because, but it's your love for music though. It's no
yeah,
different than you going to the barber shop. You know what I'm saying? It's just that
right.
two people are in a position of the music industry and it could be misconstrued. But it's
Hmm.
no difference. It's like, nowadays, influencer lists, playlists, all that stuff, whatever. So I'm like, to me, it's just, it's all changed, and, PL is still a thing. If you look at it from the standpoint that you pay the independent promoters, and the independent promoters are the ones who
Right.
have the relationships with the music directors, music supervisors, DJs, all that, or whatever. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
hey,
And you know what wind up happening years later,
uh,
they switched from Billboard from that system. That's when they switched to SoundScan because they did realize
hmm
that record labels were calling the Billboard listers, the
hmm
radio stations and the record stores and saying, "Hey, we put this artist
hmm
for the next 3 weeks and we'll pay off your car note or something
yeah.
like that."
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned SoundScan, right? I've been telling independent artists for over 10 plus years. Well, I've been doing it since 2005, so 20 years or whatever. When I started really learning about the music business, and I picked up magazines, books. Like I was in college, getting my business degree at Fort Valley State University, right down the road. And I would be reading music books, articles, magazines, whatever I got in my hand. I think I spent at least 3 grand just researching, right? As a college student, that's a lot of money. But I've been telling independent artists how important it is to race yourself with SoundScan so you can show up in the reports. You're the music expert. Let these independent artists know right now why they need to register with SoundScan.
Yeah, because it's the way to be legitimate. It's like I mentioned before, how it was so really when you think about it back in the days when I'm calling the radio stations and the record stores and I'm giving them this, they got this cheat sheet, if you want to call it one with all these numbers.
Hmm.
It was so, what's the word I'm looking for? There really was, the guidelines were so flexible
Hmm.
because somebody could go through the back door and say to that record store owner, one time I heard a record store owner kitchen was renovated. But
Hmm.
see, you can't do that because SoundScan is much more regulated per se, if that's the right way to
Hmm.
say it. But it also is more legitimate. So I encourage every artist to definitely absolutely register with SoundScan because that's one way you can track everything as well too.
Exactly. And you show up on all the different reports that are out there, the industry reports that, not the consumers, are looking at, but like, with media base and Nielsen merging together, I'm saying register with them. And it's like, there's so much information out there now that
It is.
it's
It is.
it's more accessible than it was
Yes,
back in the day. Because, there's a lot of
absolutely.
gatekeeping. But
Absolutely.
I feel like they're still lazy.
Oh yeah, they definitely are. Absolutely. Absolutely. They definitely are.
Now, I noticed that you have a plaque behind you, actually a couple of them.
Oh yeah, I can. Mhm.
Those are platinum plaques?
Uh, the one on the top, I actually have four. Two is in here, one is in the living room,
Hmm.
and then son actually has one in his studio because he's an independent artist. Check out Balling Like Jordan. But the top one is Self-Destruction.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to work with KRS-One, Nelson George, and Ann Carley on that project. And then the bottom one is Sinead O'Connor, when
Okay.
MC Lyte did Put Your Hands on Me for Sinead O'Connor. And
Okay.
then I have a platinum in the living room, which is when MC Lyte did Ice Cream Dreams. I think the name of the
Hmm.
song was on the More Money soundtrack. And
Okay.
then my son had the gold version
That's
of
what's up. What
yeah.
were your role in those projects and why did you get the plaques?
On all projects, mainly for the publicity side, because all
Okay.
of those contributed to, with the exception of self-destruction, but Sinead O'Connor and the More Money soundtrack, absolutely with the publicity. Self-destruction actually was kind of a different story. And I got to give kudos to Nelson George and Ann
Hmm.
Carley at KRS-One. But what happened was with self-destruction is that when MC Lyte was invited to come be a part of the project,
Hmm.
they had weekly meetings at Jive Records in Manhattan.
Hmm.
And it would be me, Lyte would go, I would go support her, and it would be KRS-One and all the artists or their labels mate that were, label executives that were part of that particular artist. At some point, Lyte couldn't come to all the meetings, so
Hmm.
I would go, and I wind up indirectly not intending to do this when I first started working with them, but started putting some input and started giving some feedback and started saying, oh,
hmm.
maybe this is better. No, we shouldn't do this way. And
Hmm.
thankfully, when the album came out, KOS and Nelson listed me as the second person as a thank. So that made me feel
Hmm.
like I was definitely a primary source of some good information, which
Hmm.
I appreciate. And I've actually got the album cover on that side of the wall, but it's a testament that they recognize that I did have some input. I'm always thankful for that.
I feel like artists, yes, they're branded with the success, but the actual winning or strategy for the success is a multitude of people for working on behalf for the artist, regardless of, what I'm saying, the positions that they're playing. So, all those important people should be entitled to, what I'm saying, receiving the plaques as well. Jumping into PR, right? Because I saw that where you said that you didn't know what you was doing, because it was something fairly new. What was like the first couple like lessons that you really learned when you first started doing PR?
And well, if I can go back a little further,
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you an interesting story of how that happened. So as I mentioned early on in the conversation that I sat down and the great thing about back in the days, you had these albums, and on the
Mm-hmm.
flat back of the albums, you had all the credits and people's names and
Mm-hmm.
record label information.
Yeah.
So I used to call a record label First Priority Music Brooklyn in Brooklyn,
Mm-hmm.
New York, headed up by Nat Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
And Nat Robinson has two sons, Milk and Giz, who are known for the iconic song Top Billing.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been calling Nat Robinson almost a year trying to get put on with First Priority Music. I was like, hey, listen, Nat Robinson available? And the lady would answer the phone and she's like, oh, Mr. Robinson's not available. I
Mm-hmm.
learned a year later after I started dating the receptionist because I have been
Mm-hmm.
calling so much, like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
if Nat Robinson is not available, what are you doing this weekend?
Mm-hmm.
And she told me it's not the record label you're calling the actual answering service. So that's why I can never get.
Mm-hmm.
But again, everything works in full circle. I believe if you continue to put the energy out, because MC Search, I got to give a shout out to Search,
Mm-hmm.
another brother that was very integral in helping my music career from the beginning. But Search said to me one day, "I'm going to a meeting. Do you want to come hang out with me?"
Mm-hmm.
And he lived in Far Rockaway as well. So we went to this meeting, and in the meeting, we did it at the Latin Quarters, which was back in the day the old school hip hop club
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of Times Square. And in the meeting was Professor X from X Clan,
Mm-hmm.
KRS-One, Melly Mel, Biz Markie,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe that, and Milk.
Mm-hmm.
And as going around the introduction in the circle, that everybody was sitting in a circle, Search was sitting to my left side and Milk was sitting to my right side. I had never met Milk. I knew
Mm-hmm.
KRS-One, knew Professor X, knew Biz Markie here and there from, passing them by.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I gave my speech. I just said, hey, I work at Billboard Magazine and I work in the Black Albums and Single Chart. And that was it, just being real modest. And
Mm-hmm.
Search said, no, this guy's running Billboard. He's
Mm-hmm.
like the man at Billboard. And Milk Search,
I love
shout
it.
out to Search, like I wasn't, but shout out to Search. But Milk heard that and he
Mm-hmm.
went back to his father, Nat Robinson, who I had been calling for a whole year. Said,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I just met this guy named Terry Moore that worked at Billboard magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Nat Robinson goes to this guy named Kenny Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you got a cousin that works at Billboard? Like, yeah, that's my cousin. Kenny Moore happens to be DJ K-Rock,
Mm-hmm.
who's MC Lyte's DJ. And Lyte is actually Lana Moore.
Mm-hmm.
So they called me up one day and said, hey, we know you work at Billboard. We know you got a lot of connections with the radio station. Would you want to come work for First Priority Music? I was like, absolutely. I've been trying to get on for about a good year. So I
Mm-hmm.
came in mainly as a radio promotion guy
Yeah.
because I had the connection with the radio station to call the radio station and encourage them to play First Priority artists. But probably about a month into that, I'll never forget it. I was sitting in the office and Nat Robinson opened up the door and he said, you're now a publicist. I had no idea what a publicist was. I was like, what is that? I don't know anything about that. And he said, learn it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know anything about publicity. He's like, learn it. And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
had to do. I had to learn what it takes to call the radio, not the radio station, but the magazines and the TV shows to
Mm-hmm.
get my artists on those shows and being able to get them, thankfully, on working with Arsenio Hall and The Living
Mm-hmm.
Color, and Joan Rivers and, Phil Donahue. But what I did learn to answer your question was it sort of set the ground for me to never give up
Mm-hmm.
and to learn as you're building your house.
Mm-hmm.
If you mess up the window, you're like, oh man, the window doesn't fit. But that doesn't mean that you just throw the whole house away. You're gonna
Yeah.
find a way to make the window fit because you need to live in that house.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I'm thankful as the person that was one of the two out of thousands of people in the music industry, I was one of the only two people in the industry that was disabled.
Yeah.
Myself on the East Coast and Dave Funkenklein, who
Mm-hmm.
worked on the West Coast that was disabled. Shout out to Dave. He passed away a couple of years ago as well, too. But, me coming into the PR and working at First Priority Music, and we was distributed by Atlantic Records.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that was crazy is that I was going head to head with a lot of these veteran PR people that were working at Atlantic and working at Warner Brothers. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a blessing when I got Lyte on in Living Color or got Audio 2 into Right On magazine with no background. And, they went to school for that. So it was
Mm-hmm.
absolutely a blessing.
I love it. How did everyone respond to you making accomplishments like that and being the fact that, what I'm saying, you're disabled because other people could look at them like, well, who is this new guy with this disability coming in and working harder than y'all? And here y'all are, y'all have no excuse. Did they accept you or did that create more roadblocks for you to knock down?
The hip hop industry, and I don't know how the hip hop industry is now, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of the same, but the hip hop industry in the 80s and 90s was lovely because there was nothing but love. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
not even just the hip hop industry, but the R&B industry, because, I got so much love
Mm-hmm.
from A Tribe Called Quest and
Mm-hmm.
Busta Rhymes when he was with Leaders in the New School
Mm-hmm.
and Will Smith when he was Jazzy. I mean, it was like, when they would see me, it would be like, I'm sorry, hold on, Ma.
Now I get it. Your phone, it's ringing.
Yeah, yeah, you can hear it too. Let me go ahead and dismiss that. I'm sorry about that.
No, you
One of
good.
my alarms went off. But yeah, it was a blessing because they treated me like family. We
Mm-hmm.
see each other in the hallways backstage, and we're like laughing and joking, and so R&B side too, from Troop to In Touch, it was nothing but love. Now the industry people, Dwayne Taylor at Jive, Christy Murray at Columbia, nothing but love. Everybody was like family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, how long did you stay in the industry? Like, I guess, um, head deep into it. Because I know you transitioned into LegalShield and all that. Like, at what point did you sort of start stepping out of it and then started focusing on a new career path?
And because of some contractual, I can't get into too much on the legal shield side, but I can talk more about the industry itself and
Mm-hmm.
why I got into that. But when I came to Atlanta, one of the mistakes that I made coming to Atlanta in '94, coming from my New York background, I came down here with my chest sticking out.
Mm,
Like, oh man,
okay.
I'm from New York.
Yeah.
In Georgia, they gonna flip over when they hear me coming from New York, man. They gonna
Hmm.
be all over me. This
Yeah.
brother here worked with MC Lyte. This brother worked with Queen Latifah. Oh man, we gotta
Hmm.
work with you. So I came down here with definitely with a big ego.
Hmm.
Found out very quickly in '94 that Atlanta was very cliquish at the time.
Yeah.
And they was like, do you know Dallas Austin?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't know Dallas. I don't know Dallas, brother. Like, do you know Jermaine Dupri? Like,
Uh-huh.
nah, Jermaine. I mean, like, so that totally X me out, and I wind up actually having to go get a job, a 9 to 5, which
Okay.
was Coca-Cola.
Okay.
And I was completely fine with working at Coca-Cola. Like, okay, you know what? My music career, this is like in my 30s now. My
Hmm.
music career is completely done. I'm good. And Coke started talking about layoffs in my 8th year.
Mm.
And I was like, oh man, this is, I'm thinking I'm going to retire at Coke.
Hmm.
They're talking, and they never ever talk layoffs. You got
Hmm.
generations at Coca-Cola.
Hmm.
In 2004, 5, they started talking layoffs.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I need to get a backup plan.
Hmm.
And that's what made me start looking into network marketing.
Hmm.
I was like, I'm going to still stay at Coke,
Hmm.
but I'm going to find a backup plan, something that's got some type of money coming in.
Hmm.
So that if they do let me go 3 years from now, I've got an income coming in.
Hmm.
And I really started diving into really the network marketing industry, still working at Coke and doing network marketing on the side. But then eventually the network marketing started to take over Coke.
Hmm.
And I started to saying, you know what, why am I commuting back and forth when I got people in the industry, making $100,000 a month, and I'm
Hmm.
doing $50,000 a month, $50,000 a year at Coke,
Hmm.
and I'm commuting back and forth.
Hmm.
And I got my weekends sometimes. I'm working on the weekend because I worked in the customer service as a supervisor for Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So, but I did wind up when I left Coke, I did come back into the music industry.
Yeah.
And I came back in on as a music business consultant.
Okay.
Like, okay, I got my network marketing business on the side, and I've got my music business consulting on the side. That's going to be my main thing. My network marketing business is going to be my supplemental income.
Hmm.
What I learned quickly with the music business consultant that artists don't want to pay to learn about the business.
Mm.
They rather pay for studio time.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to dive into that, right?
Okay.
Because I've done that in Macon in parts of Atlanta where you're consulting with artists, right? From your perspective, why is it that artists don't want to, like, I have my theories, but I've been trying to pinpoint why their mind is set up that way. How come they don't want to pay for music business consulting, but rather just, pay for the studio time, the artwork, whatever? Do you think it's because that is tangible and or it can become tangible, right? And that the music business consulting is a service that's intangible, but they won't see the value in that until it starts to really ring in for them if they go through that.
Yeah, and you would think with especially in 2025 with all these stories coming out
Hmm.
with the old school R&B artists that how they got robbed and how they
Yes.
didn't
Oh
make
my
any money on
goodness.
publishing. You would think that these artists of today is like
Hmm.
scrambling, like I need to
Hmm.
learn what's going on. But I think it has a lot to do, really, to be 100%. I think it comes down to they really don't want to think that hard. They don't want to have
Mm.
to worry about the contracts, and they don't want to
Hmm.
know about different stuff with the publishing, and and they just. I remember dating a young lady who's an independent artist, and this was about maybe 10 years we were dating. And
Hmm.
I said to her, I was like, sweetheart, come sit down with me. Let me talk to you about the industry and the business. And she said to me, I'll never forget it. She's like, babe, I don't want to learn all that. I just want to make music.
Mm.
And it's cool if you want to make music as a hobby.
Yes.
Like I play my keyboard, that's my hobby.
Hmm.
I'm not trying to be Stevie.
Exactly.
But once you start delving into that realm of I want to be on stage and I want to sing in front of, now you're talking a business.
Hmm.
And it's called the music business for a reason. It's a business.
Hmm.
And these artists literally, it's crazy. Like a perfect example. One of the things Milk and Giz, when they did Top Billing, more so Milk, because Milk wrote Top Billing.
Hmm.
And Top Billing had been sampled over 300 times. Mary J.
Hmm.
Blige through Puffy sampled Real Love. That's
Hmm.
Top Billing beat. Milk wrote that song when he was about 16 years old.
Hmm.
I always say when people ask me, how's Milk doing? I talked to Milk about 2 weeks ago. How's Milk doing? Milk is literally chilling.
Hmm.
Like the song Top Billing, because he has not had to work a job since he wrote that song.
Yes.
And artists really grasped that if they knew that. Now, granted, I'm going to cut them some slack because when I was in my 20s and I got into the music industry and I was working at First Priority Music and I was on tour with all these artists, like I'm touring with MC Lyte, I'm touring with Positive K, I'm touring with Audio 2,
Hmm.
and all these other First Priority artists, and then we're on tour with like I say, Public Enemy and Naughty by
Hmm.
Nature. My mindset was not on, because now one of the reasons I got into network marketing because of residual income, but
Hmm.
my mindset was not on, because I'm thinking now at 61, like, dag, I met Janet Jackson twice. I
Hmm.
met Paula Abdul. I met Madonna.
Hmm.
How come I didn't say to them like, "Hey, Janet, I got a song you might be interested in,"
Yeah.
even if she didn't release it as a single?
Hmm.
Like, she could have been like, "Yeah, you do like you're like publicist." Like, "Yeah, yeah." She's like, "Yeah, yeah. We met a couple of weeks ago." Like, "Yeah, send it to
Hmm.
my assistant. I'll listen to it." Like, why was But my
Hmm.
mind wasn't there.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I didn't have access to the information
Hmm.
that artists have now,
Yeah.
where there's really no excuse for an artist. But back in the days when there was no internet, there was no cell phone, we do some people, my mind was on the groupies at the hotel keeping it real. Like what city we going to next? You
Yeah.
know, exactly. Not on residual income and
Yeah.
royalty,
I
but
get
that,
that.
and it hits me over the head every once in a while because I was like, dag, if I just would have one artist,
Hmm.
I ran into Little Richard, I ran into Levert,
Hmm.
Joe Levert. At least I could have at least said to them, hey man, even if I wasn't writing songs,
Hmm.
yo, I got a song. Do you want to hear it? If Joe Levert would have said, yeah, man, I got you. Let me hear it. Let me send it to me.
Yeah.
I would have found a way to write that song,
Yeah. I definitely,
like that.
I love that. So
Yeah.
that prompts this question that I had for you, right? So based off of, what I'm saying, what you said your mindset was, right? Do you think the music business inadvertently created a situation to take advantage of artists because no one knew about the business per se, like you said? Um, or because you have all these horror stories, right? About the music business and artists being robbed or whatever. And I was really like thinking about that as the music business was building itself, right? With the publishing and all that stuff, whatever, once things became tangible, only so many people had access to the business side of information, right? And as it's growing as an industry, is it inadvertently creating this situation where it's taking advantage of artists because people don't know how it really works? And I'm talking about not just the artists, but I'm talking about the people who are in charge of the artists. So let's say A&Rs who are working at, labels, or, music supervisors who are working at radio stations, or, top writers and stuff like that who are working at magazines. are they inadvertently creating this situation where they're just trying to get a job done and they don't necessarily know the business side? And it seems like it's swallowing up artists because they are the product at the end of the day. Do you think the music industry like inadvertently did that to itself, or do you think people purposely kept information to themselves so that they could keep control of it?
I think as you went up higher,
Mm-hmm.
so if you were dealing with the magazines, they really didn't know.
Okay.
Um, if your boy was your manager that you grew up with in high school,
Mm-hmm.
he had no clue, but you still put him on because he's your boy and you trust him.
Mm-hmm.
Then you started going up the promoters of the club, the concert promoters. Because back in the
Mm-hmm.
day, you didn't have Live Nation. Everybody had
Yeah.
their own independent
Mm-hmm.
promoters in the state. But as you go up to the CEOs of the record label, they definitely know.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have a team of lawyers that's telling them, if you get this artist for XYZ, then you'll be able to bring in XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
And for a kid in Brooklyn, a kid in Compton, a kid in Atlanta and East Point
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't have anything,
Mm-hmm.
and you say to that kid, I'm going to cut you a check for $200,000. I'm just going to make up a number.
Yeah.
He's not thinking 20, 30, 40 years. He's not thinking generational wealth. He's
Mm-hmm.
already spent the money before you wrote the check.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, 200,000. Oh man, I can buy that car. Now he's
Mm-hmm.
not thinking about, for the most part, some of them are, but for the majority of them, they're not even thinking about buying real estate. Let me get my family out of the projects,
Mm-hmm.
out of the hood, but I can get that house. I'm gonna go to the jeweler. I'm gonna get that $50,000 chain. I'm gonna get my mom some money for the bills, for the rent. But the guy at the top,
Mm-hmm.
he absolutely knows. I'll never forget the line of when it's in the movie Cadillac. I can't remember the movie Cadillac, something with Beyonce and Mos Def, where Mos
Mm-hmm.
Def was playing the role of Chuck Berry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
And
Oh, I remember that.
you
With
remember that? Yeah, and he's
yeah,
sitting
when
in
it
the,
had Chess Records or something like that as the
yeah,
and
yeah,
the Jewish guy had the heart attack or whatever when he's going down the street or whatever, but gave
right,
Beyonce the house. Everybody else got
right.
robbed. Besides, who
Exactly.
my favorite character. I'm sorry, I still want you to make your point. My
Uh-huh.
favorite character was a Muddy Waters or something
Muddy
because he
Waters.
did not
Muddy Waters.
take an advance and he was getting his money because he didn't take any
Right.
advance, so he didn't have anything going against his account.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and you would be surprised at the number of old school hip hop artists that have not paid their advance off. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about 30, 40 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happened is, let's say an artist got, I'm just going to throw a number out there, $500,000 in advance.
Mm-hmm.
They were paying those advance off through record sales,
Mm-hmm.
CDs, but that's gone now.
Mm-hmm.
Those record sales, now you got streaming.
Mm-hmm.
So that artist, what was the overflow of artists paying advance back?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's trickled down to a small drop because nobody's really buying music now. Granted, vinyl is coming back,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of those artists are still in debt to the record label because they took that on the first album, they took that $500,000 out. They
Mm-hmm.
may have worked that $1 million down to maybe 400,000,
Mm-hmm.
$500,000 down to 400,000, but then they got another advance for the second
Mm-hmm.
album.
And they kept putting themselves in debt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
where Fabulous was on a podcast and he said his deal that he got, I think it was Def Jam or whomever it was.
Hmm.
He's still in his contract. That's why he didn't put out no
Right.
music. And I'm like,
Right.
like 20 some years ago. So I get it. And
Yeah.
then, see, this is the thing when we talk about the music side, right? I told you, did all the reading and stuff like that. I used to see where it is. And okay, so you jump into the industry, first of all, regardless, any creative industry, I don't care if it's basketball, if it's music, if it's film, whatever. Everyone's deal sucks, right? Everyone's deal sucks because you're a nobody. You don't have a proof of
Right.
concept. right? There's
Right.
nothing to be attached to your name to where it's proven sales record. So cool.
Right.
It's the accounting that gets everybody messed up because I'm getting like, they do the point thing, but let's go ahead and just say percentage. Let's just say I'm getting 10% royalty rate, but I got 100,000. So now I got to do a
Right.
million in sales
Right.
just to make up that 100,000. And if I don't do
That's
a
right.
million, I'm still in debt.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, the
On
cash flow
top
for the
of that.
company, though, yeah, exactly, done generated the million, but I ain't saying none of that. And I'm like, that's why TLC and all these artists, you're getting pennies on the dollar, or whatever, and you got to pay back millions through pennies. And I'm like, you have to sell a boatload or whatever just to break even, let alone to
Right.
make a profit. But they see where your sales potential is because you're making a cash register rings, but your deal and it's the accounting. I'm like, oh my goodness. I was like, oh, these deals. I'm like, I would have,
Mhm.
but again, that goes back to basic like math and like having people in corners stop trying to like, take the advance up front or whatever. Actually go through the negotiation process. Go find your lawyer, go find your accountant, look at this paperwork, be like, all right, now what does this break down to me in real terms? What do I have to do
Right.
to make this money back versus what's going to be pulled in? And I get it. Not everybody is set up like a business, but I also say the other side of that coin though is a lot of independent artists will not put up the capital that it takes for them to break.
Right.
They
Right.
see that as a risky investment for themselves, but they want other people to do it for.
Yeah, and a lot of artists are still infatuated with being able to say, I'm signed to a label.
Yeah, that's him.
Uh, in 2025, just like network marketing, you don't have to be, assigned to a label.
Hmm.
You can do everything yourself. Going back to like when I first got into the industry, there was no internet, and I'm talking about
Hmm.
network marketing side. There was no internet. Everything was paper form.
Hmm.
If I wanted to get somebody a video to show them what I'm doing on that industry side, I would have to mail them a VHS test tape or a
Hmm.
CD-ROM.
Hmm.
Now I can send them a video from my phone and they take a look
Yes.
at it like I like it. They go straight to my website.
Yeah.
Same thing for an artist. You don't need the label for distribution. You don't need the label
Mm-mm.
for your music video. Now with technology, you could literally be filming your music video in Dubai while you're in your living room.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They
Yeah.
they have so much resources and access to things nowadays. I think the only issue is now is like when they get to a certain level and when you're trying to scale, that's when you need a partner. Not necessarily
Hmm.
to be signed to a label, but you need a label's infrastructure because you need access to now. You're talking about like radio campaigns that are nationwide and worldwide. You're talking about having access to all these people who are playing major roles to help
Hmm.
push and highlight what you're doing to even a bigger magnitude.
Hmm.
But again, they're not gonna. I haven't seen it. Even with major label artists, I haven't seen it. I have not seen a major label artist, especially in urban, to my knowledge, put up the millions of dollars that it takes to push projects because they've seen it done on their behalf and love the
Right.
marketing. You know what I'm saying? They love that marketing money being spent on them. They want to spend it on
Hmm.
themselves. And I'm like, you really believe in yourself, then you build your company. But I want to
Yeah.
get back to what you can offer the artists, whether they're still major, mid major, whatever the case may be, or major going independent, or even just independent. When it comes to the music business consulting, like give us some examples of what you can do for artists, so therefore that way, what I'm saying, they have a clearer understanding.
Well, I don't do consulting anymore, mainly because my other business on the MLM side is doing good. But if an
Hmm.
artist comes to me and asks me a question,
Hmm.
I'll be glad to say, hey, yeah, definitely. Let me tell you the best way to do it. An artist, independent artist, definitely need to understand the business.
Hmm.
And there's so many resources out there, books. But if I the one of the biggest advice that I would give an artist, like you mentioned, You got to put a team together.
Yes.
And that's not just your boy that you went to school with, but that's your lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
That's your accountant.
Mm-hmm.
That is, if you can't dance, then you got to get a choreographer.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a young lady artist, you need a makeup artist. You need to have a team together. But you need to look at this business as a business, and you have to be consistent at it.
Mm-hmm.
What I've learned as being an entrepreneur, whether it's being a business, music business consultant, working in the public speaking, any avenue, it takes it takes confidence because you really have to get out there and hear the no's.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to get out there and be above average
Mm-hmm.
because someone that says I'm an artist probably is not promoting their music every day.
Yes.
They're sporadically, oh yeah, man, I got some stuff on Spotify, man. I'm blowing it, but they're not really blowing it. And one of my mentors on the MLM side told me something that helped me a lot. Calendar your day.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not written down, it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
And so I make sure every single thing is in my calendar. From date night, me and
Mm-hmm.
my son hung out for Christmas Eve. That was
Mm-hmm.
on my calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And my to-do list is on my calendar. So we have to be intentional about everything that we plan to do if we want to be consistent, if we want to be successful.
Yes. Now, I forgot to mention you wrote two books, right?
Mhm.
One about your disability, but then also the other one was it How to Launch Your Music Career in 21 Days. What inspired you to write those two particular books?
Well, the first one, How to Launch Your Music Career in 21 Days, that's like, oh goodness, that's 20 years old now, so that's why I dated. But I wanted to give artists a step-by-step, like what you could do every day
Mm-hmm.
within a month to hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
And early on in my Facebook days, when I was on Facebook, and I still do, I used to share my music stories. Like, I was hanging out with this artist one time, and I was
Mm-hmm.
working with this artist, and people started to say, "Man, you really need to write a book." So
Mm-hmm.
I literally sat down and wrote an ebook. Just started typing out all the stories, and then I put them in a Word format,
Mm-hmm.
converted it to a PDF,
Mm-hmm.
got somebody on Fiverr to do the book cover, and I created a PayPal page, and I just
Mm-hmm.
went full on Facebook and said, "Hey, I got this book out," and a lot of people bought the book,
Mm-hmm.
and that was ebook form. I've been saying, hey, maybe I'll do an Audible and put it on Audible, but every once in a while I'll throw up a story about somebody that I've met, and
Mm-hmm.
I write the story in such a way that you have to guess who I'm talking about at the end.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
What about your the other book? The
Well,
one.
that book is a story. That is Fearless Dream. That is the
Mm-hmm.
book about how a disabled kid from Brooklyn hung out with some of the biggest names in the music industry, and that talked about my different interactions with people like, hanging out with Tupac, hanging out with
Mm-hmm.
talking to Aaliyah, and different people like that. So yeah.
So it's more like a memoir.
Huh?
That's more like a memoir.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is because I'm thankful I've had the opportunity to work with and meet some amazing people. Like
Mm-hmm.
I said, like hanging out with Tupac and talking to Aaliyah on the phone. And I used to say one of my biggest music regrets was talking to Aaliyah one time, and she was down in Atlanta getting ready to do a show at
Mm-hmm.
the Centennial Olympic Park.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me, she was like, "Hey, why don't you come hang out with me?" And I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. And at the time, I was working downtown Atlanta, but I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't driving. And I lived in
Mm.
Gwinnett County.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So Atlanta, for those that don't know, that's downtown Atlanta and Gwinnett on the
Yeah.
train. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're taking a bus. That's at least an hour and a half, if any.
Yep.
And I started thinking,
Yes.
man, by the time I get home, it's gonna be late. I'll just see her another time.
Uh-huh.
And of course, another time never happened. But then I
Yeah.
always think too, because for a long time I was depressed. Even
Hmm.
today, I can't listen to Aaliyah's music on the radio. I'll turn it, with the exception of one song, which is the
Hmm.
Isley Brothers remake. But
Hmm.
what I think now is, what if I would have went and hung out with her tonight and we became real good friends? And
Hmm.
she's like, hey, you know what? Uh, you need to join my team.
Hmm.
And then, I'm on her team, I'm working with them. And then she's like, hey, we're doing a video shoot in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Pack your bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to think about it that way as well too. So,
I'm glad you see it from both perspectives like that. So Terry, as you move forward for 2026, like what do you want to do? You know what I'm saying? What is
um,
exciting for you now?
you know what? I'm loving the network marketing space.
Hmm.
So my goal is to really do well in that industry. I've been in it for several years, and I like being able to work from home. And the
Hmm.
company that I'm with, I can say we offer legal services that I can say,
Hmm.
and identity theft services, but they have some amazing all expense paid trips that I've been on, so I'm thankful for that.
Hmm.
And but really just dominating that industry more.
Hmm.
There's a young brother that's hitting the ground, Dow Drake. He's
Hmm.
35. I hope Dow Drake doesn't hear this and say, "Man, I'm not 35. But man, I'm older than that, or I'm younger than that." So shout out to Dow Drake. I apologize if I got the age wrong, but I know he's much younger than 61, and I
Hmm.
know that he's been with our company probably for about 3 months and already hit 250,000.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, yeah, he's definitely motivating me, and to get back into public speaking,
Hmm.
because that was something I did before going on stage and talking about the same conversation that we're having about the music industry, but also my disability
Hmm.
and just inspiring people and helping people, and just want to be a blessing where I can in
I,
2026, more of a blessing in
I,
2026.
I love that. In what ways would you say that your disability, the cerebral palsy, has limited you? Because I know you said you have like I guess, a mild case of it, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So in what ways would you?
Thankfully,
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, no, go ahead.
Thankfully, it's been a blessing because as I was younger, I was able to do a lot of stuff, but now, and I attribute it more to older age,
Hmm.
but my mindset was always, why not?
Okay.
And when I got into the music, or when I decided to get into the music industry, a lot of people said, that's the hardest industry to get into. But I was like, well, why can't I do it?
Hmm.
And so, writing for Right On magazine, calling Cynthia Horner up, and shout out to Cynthia Horner. Hey, I want to write for Right On, and I never took English classes or anything like that to
Hmm.
become a writer. She said, "Yeah, I'll give you a whole issue to write."
Yeah.
And in that issue, I was able to interview Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince and Finesse and Sequence, Public Enemy, Big Daddy Kane. That was his first magazine interview.
Oh
KRS-One
wow.
and D Nice, and
Hmm.
she trusted me enough, somebody she didn't even know, to
Hmm.
say, "Hey, I'm going to give you a whole magazine to write." So that's nothing but my mindset, and I always got to give shout out to God because I believe He orchestrates all of this to give Him the glory. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Do you have these like framed anywhere as far as like your publications, your
Do I have what I'm
contribution?
trying to say?
Do you have
Oh
those
yeah,
framed anywhere?
I don't have. I need to put the articles in a frame. I
Hmm.
don't have them in a frame, but I do have. Like I'm looking at a MC Light Award that I got from Billboard magazine,
Hmm.
and then I do have. I don't know if you can see this, but Albie Shore,
Hmm.
good friends with Albie, Big Daddy Kane. Don't know
Hmm.
Angela Winbush personally, as opposed to when she came to Billboard and signed that, but a lot of the network marketing awards, and I used to
Hmm.
work for Major Damage Clothing,
Hmm.
that used to be Sergio Valente jeans,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
me and a gentleman by the name of Gene Peterson used to, with Major Damage, we used to put clothes on all the different artists in music videos until MTV and
Hmm.
BET figured out that they
Yeah.
were giving away free publishing. So
Yeah.
they started blurring out the
Yeah.
logo.
I just
And put
love
it,
how everyone, back in the day, y'all were so ingenious with stuff like that. I
Yeah,
remember LL Cool J telling the story about how he got the FUBU hat and the Gap paid for it.
yeah,
So
exactly.
y'all were just so creative, which it set precedents for like,
Yeah,
product placement and brand recognition.
yeah,
It was like y'all were so innovative. Um,
yeah.
so you mentioned, network marketing. People, tend to have like a negative connotation with that sometimes. What can you say about network marketing to where, it can soften how people look at it? And especially if they're looking at it as, what I'm saying, whether or not it should be an opportunity they should explore.
I think, well, one of the reasons, and Eric, shout out to Eric Worre, um, who's sort of like the godfather of network marketing industry, and he had a online seminar about 2 weeks ago, virtual seminar with about 50,000 people from all over the country, all over the world,
Hmm.
from different companies. And what he did say that he said that it's really our fault in a sense because we try to make network marketing seem easy.
Hmm.
Like, hey, join the business and, you can get started for a low price, which you can for most companies. But get started and, all you got to do is do X, Y, Z and you can start making money.
Hmm.
And that is true to an extent, but it's a lot harder than what it is in
Yeah.
regards to like any business, you got to work it.
Yeah.
You got to be consistent with it. And majority of people that get into the industry, and I'm going to say 90% of the people that get into the industry, um, they get told no. They're like, okay, I'm selling this product.
Hmm.
My mom is going to buy, my brother's going to buy, and my best friend is going to buy. They're geek. They're like, okay, I'm about to make a lot of money because I know they're going to get it. Mom says, no, why do I need that? Cousin says, I don't need that. And best friend is
Hmm.
like, let me think about it. Call me next month. And next month come, oh, let me think about it some more. And they get discouraged. And they're like, oh,
Hmm.
this thing doesn't work. What I learned about network marketing in the music industry sort of at the same time is you have to be where you can see examples.
Hmm.
One of the reasons that I was able to really work hard in the music industry because I saw examples. I saw that I knew there were people working at record labels. I knew that there were people working at management companies, on tours, working all these different areas. I knew because I was hanging out with them.
Hmm.
So I knew, like, okay, and I always say the whole room can't be more uh, smarter than I am.
Hmm.
This guy's a club promoter, and he's bringing all these artists into clubs. And this girl over here is a choreographer for some of the biggest names in the music industry. They both can't be smarter than me. Maybe one or the other, but not both of them. So I said the same thing about network marketing industry is that I started to say, okay, if I'm really going to do this business, because I tried different companies
Hmm.
and was very unsuccessful.
Yeah.
Didn't sell a pen or a pencil.
Yeah.
One, because I didn't believe in the product and I
Hmm.
wasn't consistent and I didn't really learn the industry.
Yeah.
So no matter whether you're in the network marketing or whether you're in the music industry, you have to learn your industry. So when I
Hmm.
got into network marketing the second time around within the last 5 or 6 years, I said, okay, I'm really going to take this serious
Yeah.
and I'm going to breathe, eat, and sleep this industry. And majority of people won't do that. They'll make
Yeah.
the excuses. "Oh, I'm tired. I'm not going to. But I, on my team alone that I'm a part of, T and V that I can mention, every couple of weeks we got somebody on our team doing six figures.
That's what's up.
We got millionaire club members on our team.
Hmm.
And I know from the all expense paid trips that I've been on where the company has paid for the hotel, the airfare, the food, me and a guest. And
Hmm.
it's not just the top 20, but 700 people have been on the trips. So I know it works.
Hmm.
I just have to work it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's up. My last question as far as this, have you thought
Mhm.
about like doing a documentary or having a documentary done on yourself with all this experience that you have and all this knowledge and just be able to tell all these stories? Have you thought about like putting together a documentary?
Nah, you know what? That's a good thing. Now you got planted the seed now. So, I'll lay in bed tonight like, oh, documentary, that would be kind of dope. At one point, First Priority Music was going to do a movie.
Hmm.
And shout out to Nat Robinson. But that was just before COVID.
Hmm.
And we were going to do a First Priority Music tour.
Hmm.
And we were going to do a movie. Everything was going to coincide together. And then the pandemic hit and everything just got thrown out and we never revisited. But yeah, it's something definitely to think about. I definitely wouldn't say no to it, but definitely something I would love to leave a legacy that, because my son Jordan is always like got his camera, his cell phone up, and he's
Hmm.
recording like, all right, Dad, give me some tips. And like
Hmm.
like he's getting into old school black exploitation movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, you never saw Car Wash? You never
Yeah.
saw Cooley High? Man, what are you watching, man?
I love it.
So he up for the last for Christmas Eve,
Hmm.
we were checking out Beverly Hills Cops in 48 hours for him for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what's up. Well,
absolutely.
hey, if you ever, I would love to be a part of it some type of way.
Say that again,
Yeah.
huh?
I said, if you ever think about it, I would love to be a part of it some type of way.
Okay, we need
Um,
to talk on that.
yeah.
Definitely.
But
Yeah,
Terry,
absolutely.
let everybody know if they're, wanting to learn about, network marketing, if they want to get some questions answered about the music industry, they just want to be pointed in the right direction. How do you want people to reach out to you?
The best way to reach out to me is I'm going to leave my business number, which is 470-296-8584, 470-296-8584. You can also find me on Instagram if you do Terry_Moore, Moorer. My link tree is there. So if you go to my link tree, it's going to have my calendar, which you can get on my calendar. And then every Monday night, we shut it down for December, but every Monday night, downtown Atlanta at the Russell Innovation Center, we're going to be doing a network marketing event, but really it's networking. So people can come out, they can share what they do, and they can network with other people in the room. And then, of course, my company is going to do a 30-minute presentation to talk about what we do. And there's a good chance for anybody just to come out. It's free
Hmm.
parking. Even if they don't join the business, they say, "Hey, it's not for me." It's cool. They can just come out and network and meet other people, but they'll
I
get a
love
chance to
it.
learn what I do too.
I love that. I used to do business mixers and making when I did that. But I could only, I did it like once a year, made it a big splash thing, paid for drinks, all sorts of stuff, food, and wanted people just to
Hmm.
come out and network. And people loved
Yeah,
it. The
yeah.
fact that you have an event that y'all gonna do every Monday starting in the new year, free parking, because parking in Atlanta is crazy. Like that in itself, it drives me sane. I think it's so asinine, but hey, that's just
Uh,
me. But the fact that you're doing it though and bringing people together, like you said,
right.
just to network, that's the bare minimum basic. Now, yeah, if they want to join a part of the company, cool. If it's not for them, it's not for
Right.
them. But to host an event to where people can gather and get to know one another, and you said they get to do a sales pitch because I used to do that as well. I
Hmm.
actually, my last one I did, the entire room, I got them all because I used to have four speakers come out, right?
That's
Whether
dope.
they had whether they had a brick and mortar or online business, they get to tell their story. Said about 10, 15 minutes at the max. But then I went through the whole room. There was like 40 some entrepreneurs because I knew them all. I was like, all right, come on,
Uh-huh.
you gotta come on. And I started calling them. They didn't even know I was gonna do this. I called them to the front of the room. They had a pitch. I was like, hey, because you never know who you're
You
gonna
never know.
meet. And you got to be
Yeah.
able to, pitch what you do or whatever. So they
Yeah.
loved it, even though they were grumpy.
Yeah,
But
I love it because one of the biggest misconceptions in regards to our industry is
uh-huh.
that, and I know there's some bad actors in every industry, but
Hmm.
at least with my company and my industry, we're like my business is not for everybody.
Yeah.
I do want everybody to take a look at it, so that
Hmm.
way they can make a decision and say, "Oh, it's not for me." But I've had people say, "No, no, I'm not really interested," and I'm like, "Still cool." I'm still gonna weeks later, months later, I'm still gonna connect them with people. So
Hmm.
if somebody comes out to one of my networking events or if someone looks at my information, we got a Zoom tonight. Somebody looks at the information. If they say, "Hey, I'm not interested," that's fine. But let's say they're a caterer. They have a catering service. If I
Hmm.
run into somebody 3 months from now that needs a catering service, oh, they're still going to get the lead.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
y'all make sure y'all go and y'all check out Terry's profile. Of course, it's going to display on the screen, and then for all my audio folks or whatever, it'll be in the show notes as well. Y'all continue to keep following the platform. Instagram, Bake That underscore radio underscore show, Bake That Radio Show on Facebook, Bake That Radio Show on YouTube. Of course, you can listen to Spotify, Apple, and for everyone who does like the exclusive content, you can also get that exclusive content on Apple by being a subscriber. I'm your host, Andreas with Bake That Radio Show. This has been Music and Business Talk, where our special guest, Terry Moore, who y'all have heard has a phenomenal life story. Y'all make sure y'all go and support. Appreciate it, Terry.
Appreciate you, sir. Thank you for having me on. It's been an honor, sir. Appreciate you.
You are welcome.